50 amazing facts to blow your mind. The air quality in Beijing got so bad in December of 2015 that schools were closed, car travel was restricted, and barbecuing was banned. Japanese death row inmates aren't told the date of their execution, therefore they wake up every single day wondering if today may be their last. The Sacramento Public Library started a library of things earlier in 2016, which allowed patrons to check out, among other things, sewing machines and other items that patrons may find useful but may not need to own long term. There's a Santa Claus University in LA that teaches professional Santa Claus skills such as toy knowledge, poses, and how to avoid a lawsuit. Oh, but before you laugh at them, a top-level Santa Claus can actually make up to $100,000 a year. Ho ho ho! Who's laughing now? When the world's top soccer player, Cristiano Ronaldo, was asked to donate his cleats for a charity auction benefiting 10-month-old Eric Ortiz Cruz, who had a brain disorder that could cause 30 seizures a day, he instead paid the whole $83,000 for his surgery himself. A lot of old movie theaters used to have something called cry rooms, where you could literally take your children if they were becoming disruptive. This way, you could still enjoy the movie while not disturbing the other moviegoers. There's a spray that makes everything smell like a cat's head. Cat owners have been known to compare their cat's head to the smell of sunshine or freshly baked bread, so of course, a company in Japan spent 4 months sniffing cats to bottle the scent. The Coast Guard trained pigeons to assist in finding people lost at sea. They sat in a dome attached to a helicopter, pressing a lever after they spotted life preservers or debris. And believe it or not, they had a 90% success rate in initial trials. Ooh, over there, ooh. It would take you 10 years to view all of the photos that were shared on Snapchat in the last hour alone. In the United States, sitting on a sea turtle is in fact a third-degree felony. A 17-year-old refugee named Aslan al-Hakim refused to leave his puppy, Rose, in Syria during the refugee crisis and carried her more than 300 miles to safety. A grandmother in Vicenza, Italy accidentally sent 2 adults and 3 children to the hospital when she made them cocoa with packets that expired back in 1990. In Japan, eating Christmas dinner at KFC is so popular that 2-hour lines form at some locations waiting for people to get in. In the Philippines, there's a banana ketchup. During World War II, there was actually a shortage of tomatoes, so they had to use bananas as a replacement to replace ketchup. It's made from mashed bananas, sugar, vinegar, and spices. In rich countries, obesity is more common among the less educated, but in poor countries, obesity is common among the highly educated. The Lion King was originally called the King of the Jungle. That is until the Disney team learned that lions don't live in the jungle. There are special bins in Mexico City where you can put your dog poo in it, and in exchange, you get free Wi-Fi. And in fact, the more poo, the longer the free Wi-Fi. There is a 70-meter-long organ on the coast of Zadar, Croatia. The organ, designed by architect Nikola Basic, has 35 tubes that make music whenever waves crash into them. The last individual of a single species is called an endling. When it dies, the species is then extinct. There's an annual photo contest called the Comedy Wildlife Photography Awards. Entries consist of the funniest animal wildlife pictures that photographers accidentally or intentionally captured throughout their career. Boeing has created a new metal called microlattice that's 99.99% air, so light in fact that the metal can sit on top of a dandelion without crushing it. In 2015 in Colorado, a mysterious teenager was regularly breaking into homes, stealing snacks, specifically Hot Pockets, and watching people's Netflix. He literally steals no cash or valuables, only snacks and Netflix. Somebody was clearly high, man. The sun is the most perfect sphere ever observed in nature, according to University of Hawaii's Dr. Jeffrey Kuhn. Polish teenager Iga Jasica unexpectedly woke up in the middle of her brain surgery and calmly asked the doctor, "How's it going?" Amazingly, she wasn't in any pain, so they talked about cats until the surgery was over. In 2003, 2 men stole a Boeing 727 from an Angolan airport and were never seen again. How do you get away with that? Saudi Arabia is the largest country in the world without a river. Disney put 500 stormtroopers on the Great Wall of China to promote Star Wars: The Force Awakens. The Soviets found that sniper duties actually fit women the best, since snipers are patient, careful, deliberate, can avoid hand-to-hand combat, and need higher levels of aerobic conditioning than other troops. The Daiichi Yoshin preschool in Japan has a courtyard that collects rainwater into a giant, clean puddle that kids can stomp and splash around in. There is a rare brain disorder called foreign accent syndrome that causes people to involuntarily speak in foreign accents. Well, isn't that the crazy one? Adopting children is actually considered taboo in Korea, and because of this, South Korea's orphans are almost never adopted unless a foreigner adopts them. In 2015, a Russian man got drunk with his friends, dropped dead, came back to life in the morgue freezer, and then headed off to drink some more. Those Russians, man, just badass. In 2009, 3 masked burglars unknowingly broke into Swedish actor Dolph Lundgren's home and tied him up and then threatened his wife. But they immediately fled when they found a family photo and realized who owned the home. He was probably like, "I will break you." And they were like, "Yeah, okay, I know, we out." There are more neurons lining your stomach than there are in your spinal cord, so your digestive system can work without needing your brain. In fact, when you're flooded with emotion, the neurons react and you get a gut feeling. Photographer Andrew Suriono was about to put his camera away due to rain when he noticed an orangutan using a leaf for shelter. He quickly snapped this shot, which got him an honorable mention in the 2015 National Geographic Photo Contest. 29-year-old Alan Dixon from Ireland has mastered the art of the animal selfie. Though they appear very casual, he sometimes spends hours gaining an animal's trust before a shot. Despite being a millionaire, Steve Jobs only paid $500 a month in child support to his daughter Lisa. Yes, that's the same girl that he named the computer after but still attempted to deny paternity for. In 1986, Soviet pilot Alexander Lukyov made a bet with a co-pilot that he could land an airplane blind. Sounds safe. So he curtained the cockpit windows and crashed the plane into a landing strip, killing 70 out of 87 passengers. There are certain things you just don't take a bet for. That's one of them. There is a battery-powered bell at Oxford University that has been continuously ringing for over 175 years. Nobody knows what the battery is composed of, and no one wants to take the device apart in order to figure it out. In the twilight of the Cold War, the United States spent millions of dollars to supply Afghan school children with textbooks filled with violent images and militant Islamic teachings, part of covert attempts to spur resistance of the Soviet occupation. The Like a Hug jacket gives you a hug whenever a friend likes one of your Facebook posts. In World War II, 9 airmen escaped from their planes after being shot down during bombing raids. 8 out of the 9 men were captured, tortured, beheaded, and eaten. The 9th man was George H.W. Bush. In 2015, a man named Torkel Christophers was arrested for kidnapping when his neighbors didn't recognize him with his new beard that he grew while taking time off of work. Studies have suggested that gifted people often have bad handwriting because their brains are often working faster than their hand. Okay, I literally have the worst handwriting in the world, so I'll take that compliment. There's a biological reason why we can't resist puppy dog eyes. Sustained eye contact significantly raises oxytocin levels in both humans and dogs, which in turn encourages trust, love, and bonding. This response isn't found in even hand-raised wolves, which suggests that humans and dogs may have co-evolved to share this trait in order to be companions. In Brooklyn, New York, entrepreneur Nina Keneally established a business called Need a Mom that you can call and literally rent a mom for $40. She listens to you, gives you advice, cooks, and helps you with chores. At the Nuremberg trials, several Nazi leaders achieved genius-level scores of an IQ test. When 70-year-old farmer Winston Howe's wife of 33 years, Janet, died suddenly, he decided that he wanted to create a lasting tribute to her. So he planted thousands of oak saplings in a 6-acre field and left a heart-shaped point facing towards her childhood home. Villagers in the Indian village of Marachil began playing chess as an alternative to drinking after a ban on alcohol. The village is now known as Chess Village due to its near 100% chess literacy. Japan keeps a defunct train station called Kayu Shiritaka on the island of Hokkaido, running just for one girl, yes, one girl, so that she can attend school every day. The train only makes 2 stops, one when the lone high school student leaves for school and the other when she returns. Finland, speeding tickets are calculated on a percentage of the person's income. This causes some Finnish millionaires to face fines of over $100,000. Sometimes female lions can develop manes. Such masculine females likely occur when the embryo is disrupted, either at conception or while in the womb. In 2002, a Hooters in Panama City, Florida, offered employees a chance to win a Toyota. But when the winning waitress Jody Berry was given a toy Yoda action figure as a prank, she sued and won enough to pick out whatever type of Toyota she wanted. When their child was diagnosed with xeroderma pigmentosa, a condition in which exposure to sunlight causes third-degree burns and cancer, a New York couple, Dan and Kareen Mahar, founded Camp Sundown, a summer camp for kids with the genetic disorder where all camp activities are held after sundown. Engineers in Canada receive an iron ring to remind them to have humility. It's in memory of a bridge that collapsed twice due to incorrect calculations involving iron. The "your mother" insult is found in nearly all cultures and is as old as humanity itself, with examples in Shakespeare and the Bible. Mobile phone throwing is a sport in Finland. Hatebeak is a black metal band whose lead singer is a parrot. While dogs operate under a strict hierarchy, wolves will actually cooperate and communicate with each other to make decisions as a group. In 1990, disabled activists got out of their wheelchairs and crawled up the steps of the Capitol, inconveniencing senators to encourage a vote on the Americans with Disabilities Act. Thomas Jefferson proposed in 1784 to end slavery in all the territories, but his bill was lost in Congress by a single vote. Adidas will cancel any sponsorship deal that they have with a player if it turns out he has anything to do with Scientology. Puppy pregnancy syndrome is an illness where the sufferer believes that they are pregnant with puppies after being bitten by a dog. Yeah, that's a real thing. The Yakuza, Japan's largest organized crime syndicate, provided food, water, blankets, diapers, and more during both the 1995 and 2001 Japanese earthquakes. They even had a faster response time than the Japanese government. Doodlebug is an orphaned baby kangaroo that was found abandoned on the side of the road when he walked up to a human, held up his arms, and asked to be picked up. The rescuer later gave him a teddy bear and he wouldn't stop hugging it. Humans are the kings of the planet when it comes to long-distance running. We can outrun every animal on the planet and run in conditions that no other animal can run in. 42-year-old Russian fisherman Igor Vorobitsyn was brutally attacked by a bear, but he was suddenly saved when his ringtone that his granddaughter installed on his phone, Justin Bieber's Baby, went off, sending the bear running back into the woods. I don't really blame him. His early stuff was pretty bad. The word outlaw originally meant outside the protection of the law, so you could rob or kill them without legal consequences. A typical Rihanna hit single costs around $75,000 to make, another $1 million to promote it, but the lyrics are usually written in about 15 minutes. At the Marine Mammal Studies Institute in Mississippi, dolphins were trained to turn in trash that fell into the pools in exchange for fish. One dolphin named Kelly was smart enough to hide pieces of paper under a rock, tearing off smaller pieces from the paper in order to get more fish out of it. That's a smart dolphin. Nobody has died from a confirmed spider bite in Australia since 1979. Deaths by spiders actually occur more from being surprised by them, like while you're driving. Oh God! Psychopaths are immune to contagious yawning and are less likely to be startled. So next time you yawn and the person beside you doesn't even flinch, Unisan Spa House in Hakone, a southeastern town in Japan, is now offering ramen noodle baths. The bath, consisting of ramen port broth and synthetic noodles, allegedly helps improve patron skin. And it's delicious! Colonel Sanders would often make surprise visits to KFC restaurants. If he was dissatisfied with the food, he would throw it on the ground and cursed at the employees. Alzheimer's disease does not affect emotional memory as strongly as informational memory. As a result, Alzheimer's Alzheimer's patients, when given bad news, will quickly forget the news but will remain sad and have no idea why. Philip A. Contos was a motorcyclist who died at an anti-helmet rally after he flipped over his handlebars and hit his head on the pavement. The Incas measured their units of time by how long it would take to cook a potato. Yeah, okay, brother, I'll see you in like 3/4 of a potato. Alright. MI5 once had a plan to use gerbils to detect terrorists and spies at airports. This is because their sense of smell can acutely detect increased adrenaline in people. But the project was scrapped when the gerbils proved unable to tell the difference between terrorists and those who were just afraid of flying. Abraham Lincoln created the Secret Service just hours before he was assassinated. Shortly after returning from the moon and leaving NASA, Buzz Aldrin had a failed career as an Air Force test pilot. He then started drinking, had an affair, suffered depression, got divorced, got remarried, got divorced again, and became a Cadillac salesman where he failed to sell a car for 6 months. Damn, that's actually incredibly sad. In 2004, Google anonymously posted math equations on billboards in Harvard Square in Silicon Valley that, if solved, led to a website with another equation, which in turn allowed you to submit your resume. I feel like if you get that far, you're in. You're in. In Sweden, it is illegal to name your baby Metallica, Superman, Veranda, IKEA, or Elvis. On August 16th, 1996, at the Brookfield Zoo, a 3-year-old boy fell into a gorilla enclosure and lost consciousness. But Binti Jwa, a female gorilla, guarded the young boy from other gorillas, cradled him in her arms, and carried him to an entrance where zookeepers could actually retrieve him. A Chinese man bought and raised 2 puppies, cared for them despite their frequent killing and eating of chickens, and discovered later that they were bears. That was a bear. Blowing smoke up your ass actually used to be a common cure for many ailments. Japan has a network of roads that actually plays music as you drive over them at the correct speed. A South Korean man named Woo Bum Khan committed a mass murder because he was enraged from being woken by his girlfriend trying to swat a fly on his chest. Must kill everybody. Yokohama, Japan has an annual festival devoted entirely to Pikachu. The Pikachu Outbreak is a week-long festival where masses of dancing Pikachus, along with countless statues, completely take over the city. The word dude was first used in the 1800s as an insult towards young men who were too concerned with keeping up with the latest fashions. Ha! Doth I see a dude? There's a New York City hot dog vendor named Muhammad Mustafa who pays $289,000 a year for his location. Business must be booming. John Cena, the WWE superstar, has granted more than 400 Make-A-Wish requests, more than anyone else in the charity's history. Mathematician Paul Erdos could calculate in his head, given a person's age, how many seconds that they had lived when he was 4. There are estimated to be nearly 14.5 million cancer survivors in the United States. Kind of gives you hope. According to his brother, Vincent van Gogh's last words were, "The sadness will last forever." That's kind of haunting. Believe it or not, coloring books for grown-ups are a huge trend, and publishers actually struggle to keep up with demand. The books are used successfully to reduce stress, relieve anxiety, and as rehabilitation aids for patients that are recovering from strokes. Sam Grenier from the Successful Kid memes used his success to start a GoFundMe page, which raised nearly $100,000 for his dad's kidney transplant. Inmates at a Bolivia prison live as a society. They have jobs, buy or rent their accommodation, and often live with their families. There is a fish called the black dragonfish that looks like the creature from the Alien movies. In 1994, a 34-kilogram bag of cocaine fell out of a plane and landed in the middle of a Florida Crime Watch meeting. A Chinese millionaire began selling cans of fresh air for 80 cents a can in response to China's worsening air pollution and made over $6 million. Halloween is Grinch Night was a 1977 prequel to How the Grinch Stole Christmas that aired on ABC. It won the Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Children's Program in 1978. Actor Michael Caine's real name is Maurice Micklewhite, and it was also his legal name until 2016. He legally changed his name to Michael Caine because of the rise in airport security. He said that he would stand with security for an hour to prove that his passport he carried was his. Episodes of South Park are written, animated, and produced in 6 days in order for the television show to keep up with current events. The chemical formula in the salt solution that makes melted cheese nice and creamy is spelt nacho, that being Na3C6H5 and O7. Sour Patch Kids candy was originally called Marsmen until 1985 when they were renamed to capitalize on the success of Cabbage Patch Kids. During the Amsterdam Olympics of 1928, Australian sculler Bobby Pearce was leading the quarter-final race when a mother duck and her ducklings crossed in front of him. Pearce actually stopped rowing in order to let them safely cross, but in doing so, one of his competitors passed him and created a 5-length lead. In the final 1,000 meters of the race, Pearce not only passed his competitor, but he secured a 30-second lead when he finished and set a new games record. Over 100 marijuana plants sprouted on the playing field of Anaheim Stadium in 1976 following a concert by The Who. According to researcher Jacob Jalij, the world's happiest song is Mr. Blue Sky by Electric Light Orchestra. Jalij came up with a formula by studying 126 songs over 50 years, as well as surveying 2,000 people to find out which song made them the happiest. Number 2 on this list was Don't Stop Me Now by Queen. Ben Stiller came up with the idea for the comedy film Tropic Thunder while working on the set of The Empire of the Sun in 1987 and listening to actors tell their experiences about boot camp as if they actually went to war. NASA has confirmed that Earth is greener than it was 20 years ago due to increased greening land in China and India. Actor and comedian Jamie Foxx's real name is Eric Marlin Bishop. He changed his name to Jamie because he found out that the women were being called up first at the club he was performing at and wanted to disallow any biases. He chose Fox as his last name because of the comedian Red Fox. Candido Enzo Jacuzzi was an Italian immigrant in the United States who invented the jacuzzi whirlpool bath to help his 15-month-old son, Kenny Jacuzzi, who was born with rheumatoid arthritis. Sherpas are an ethnic group that are descendants from Tibetan heritage and indigenous to the Himalayas. For most people outside of Nepal, the word Sherpa usually means mountain guides. The song Schools Out by Alison Cooper in 1972 was inspired by a question asked to Cooper. The question was, what's the greatest 3 minutes of your life? He answered that it was Christmas morning and the last 3 minutes of school for the year. Cooper said, if we can catch those 3 minutes in a song, it's going to be big. Actor Keanu Reeves was once babysat by Alice Cooper when he was a child while his mother was working in costume design. The actor claimed that he didn't remember much from the experience, except that there was fake poop in the fridge. Wait, what? A tribe in Tanzania called the Haya have been forging steel for close to 2,000 years, according to archaeologist Peter Schmidt. He discovered that the elders were capable of building furnaces out of mud and grass. When he investigated their land further, he found 13 other furnaces that were similar in design, but were carbon dated to be around 2,000 years old. Jellyfish are classified as plankton because they are organisms that are unable to swim against a current. The 2001 stoner comedy How High, starring Method Man and Redman, was directed by Bob Dylan's son Jesse Dylan. It was his directorial debut. Inventor Nikola Tesla claimed that he never slept more than 2 hours per night. A journalist that he befriended confirmed that claim by saying that Tesla called him at 3 a.m. one morning saying he was working out a problem. After comparing theories to himself and coming to the solution, Tesla hung up on him. The Burj Khalifa skyscraper in Dubai creates so much waste that it's unable to fit in a sewer system. The waste is removed by trucks that wait in lines for up to 24 hours to load it up and transport it to a treatment facility. Simple humming assists with the production of nitric oxide in your sinuses, which is one of your body's defenses in killing bad bacteria in your sinus passage. I feel better. Someone who fidgets frequently is capable of burning up to 350 calories per day. Fidgeting and other habits of extra little movements are also a trait that's common with thin people. Coca-Cola has been the oldest sponsor of the Olympic Games since they first appeared at the 1928 Games in Amsterdam. Researcher Dov Sikharov studied 28 healthy volunteers when they pass a bowel movement to find out if it's better to squat or sit on the toilet. He recorded the times and concluded that the average time it took the volunteers to pass a bowel movement while squatting was 51 seconds. The average time it took them to pass a bowel movement while sitting was between 114 and 130 seconds. So if you're in a rush, start squatting. Screenwriter Charlie Kaufman was having trouble adapting the book The Orchid Thief into a film. He decided to write about himself having trouble to adapt the book and turned it into the movie adaptation. Filmmaker Ron Howard still owns the first car he ever bought, which was a 1970 Volkswagen Bug. His brother-in-law found it for him after Howard sold it and replaced the engine. His brother-in-law then shipped the Bug to Howard, and it ended up being the car that he courted his wife in. Since the 1950s, at least 4 actors who played the Marlboro Man in advertisements have died from smoking-related illnesses. A substantial number of black men experience irritation on their faces caused by shaving. Believe it or not, because of this, Domino's Pizza was found to be in violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 for having a no-beard policy for their employees. According to Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Graham Nash, Jimi Hendrix was unbeatable at the game of Risk, especially while he was on LSD. According to the Humane Research Council, 84% of vegetarians return to eating meat. This conclusion was found by a survey of 11,399 adults who were 17 and older. The film Top Gun was produced in collaboration with the Pentagon in order to rebrand the US Navy's image after the Vietnam War. Actor Charlie Day has worn the same pair of Vans shoes in every episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. The only time that Leonard Nimoy appeared in public as Spock from the show Star Trek was from the Pear Blossom Festival in Medford, Oregon in 1967. He served as the Grand Marshal of the parade. For over 3,000 years, chocolate was always in liquid form until Joseph Fry learned how to make it solid in 1847. About 70% of the entire world's web traffic flows through Loudoun County in Northern Virginia. During ancient Roman times, every year on June 11th, free women would ceremoniously beat a slave girl and force her out of the community. The first written recipe for guacamole in the English language came from a pirate named William Dampier in the 17th century. Bless that man. The Michelin Man owns an equally white puffy dog named Bubbles. The reason why the Michelin Man is white is because tires weren't colored black until 1912. There are atmosphere purifying plants called Eco's Air Pure plants that remove contaminants from rooms. China has its own alternative to the Nobel Peace Prize called the Confucius Peace Prize. Honolulu, Hawaii, and Juneau, Alaska are the only state capitals where the roads do not connect to other roads in the state. The CEO of Goldman Sachs is David Solomon, and he's also an EDM producer who goes by the name DJ D-Soul. Wrist sweatbands became popular in the 1930s when tennis player Fred Perry wore gauze on his right wrist to prevent sweat from getting to his racket handle and also using it to wipe his forehead. According to AAA, it's illegal to drive with your hazard lights on in a large number of US states. Giraffes and oxen are kosher to eat, but camels are not. The Beach Boys song Never Learn Not to Love is an altered version of a song originally written by Charles Manson called Cease to Exist. Yep, now you're gonna listen to that differently. Alaska, Arizona, Utah, Indiana, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Tennessee all have official state firearms. Pink pearl apples are red on the inside. They were developed in 1944 by a California breeder named Albert Eder. Sliced bread was illegal in the United States from January 1943 until March 1943 in order to conserve resources for World War II. 30 seconds, you will, on average, produce 72 million red blood cells, shed 174,000 skin cells, and have 25 thoughts. Humans put a man on the moon before they put wheels on luggage. Let that sink in. In 2014, a stray dog named Arthur followed a Swedish racing team through the Amazonian jungles and rivers to complete a 688-kilometer race just because one of them had given it a meatball during one of the earlier halts. Although natural gas only became commonly used in in the 1800s, the Han Dynasty of China drilled for natural gas, transported it in pipelines and gas containers, and burned it on stoves as far back as 200 BC. There are so many castles in France that some are up for sale cheaper than two-bedroom apartments in metropolis cities like New York City and Sydney. Bearded vultures wear makeup. They like to alter their appearance by rubbing their necks and heads in iron-rich soil to change their white feathers to a bright reddish orange. The older and more socially dominant birds wear the most makeup to show off and appear more intimidating. Confidential data from the maritime industry that leaked revealed that one giant container ship can emit the same amount of cancer and asthma-causing chemicals as 50 million cars. That is, while the top 15 largest container ships together in the world may be emitting as much pollution as all 760 million cars on Earth. The human heart has 3 types of blood vessels: arteries, veins, and capillaries. Arteries carry oxygenated blood away from the heart, capillaries connect them to the veins, and veins return the used blood back to the heart. 7% of the population triggers a sneeze reflex when they stare at a bright light, such as the sun or a strong light bulb. And of that 7%, 94% of those people are Caucasian. An American teenager named Ethan Couch, who killed 4 pedestrians while drunk driving, was given no prison time after claiming affluenza, a mental illness from being too wealthy. Well, that's a whole lot of bull. In 2015, Russia opened a military Disneyland called Patriot Park, where visitors, including children, can ride in tanks, shoot guns, and buy and sell military gear. A woman once took part in a search for a missing tourist in Iceland, only to realize hours later that she was indeed the missing person. A Russian suicide bomber with the intent of killing hundreds in Moscow on New Year's Eve of 2015 had her plan foiled when her wireless carrier sent her a text message wishing her a Happy New Year, which triggered her belt bomb, killing her and her alone. Yay karma! If somebody reports their company for tax evasion in the United States, he or she will receive 15 to 30% of the amount collected. One person named Bradley C. Birkenfield was a whistleblower on the USB AG Swiss bank tax evasion scheme and received, get this, $104 million as a reward. In 2013, a man in Michigan whose house was set to be demolished switched his house numbers with his neighbor, and the crew ended up demolishing the wrong house. That is not a joke. It's possible to die from drowning up to 24 hours after leaving water. It's known as dry drowning, where victims can be walking and talking while their lungs are actually filled with water. Chinchilla fur is so thick and soft that fleas will suffocate if they try to live in it. The pigostat is a device that has been around since the 1960s, where radiologists can safely immobilize babies and young children who can't sit still during an x-ray. Researchers from the University of Queensland and the University of New South Wales have found that people with dark eyes are more agreeable, while people with blue eyes tend to be more competitive. I agree with that. There is an unnamed species of octopus that currently exists that scientists think are so cute that they're actually pushing to have it named Opus Thauditheus adorabilis. In the town of Fuking, Austria, the most common reported crime has been stealing of their road signs. In an effort to save money in replacing the signs, a vote to change the town's name was proposed in 2004, but the 104 citizens that live there decided against it and instead opted for theft restraint signs. There's a new dining craze known as Dinner in the Sky, available in 15 countries around the world, where you actually eat your food in a racing chair suspended 60 meters above ground. Nope, no thank you. McDonald's opened their first ski-through fast food restaurant in 1996 located in Sweden. You can actually ski up to the counter, order your food, and ski off. They call it McSki. Peter Mayhew, the actor who played Chewbacca in Star Wars, actually had to be accompanied by crew members dressed in brightly colored vests while filming in the forests of the Pacific Northwest. Why? Well, because this was to ensure that he wasn't shot by hunters who would mistake him for Bigfoot. The Center for Retail Research in Britain found that the most stolen food item in the world is cheese. In fact, 4% of all cheese sold was actually stolen. There are actually miniature guide horses that the blind can use as an alternative to seeing eye dogs. They have several perceived advantages to that of a dog, including the average lifespan of 30 years, and they have 350-degree vision. In 1967, during the Nigerian Civil War, both sides agreed to a 48-hour ceasefire because Pele was in town to play an exhibition soccer game, and everyone wanted to be free to watch it without having to worry about the war. Sports saving the world! London has a cereal cafe known as the Serial Killer Cafe, where you can eat hundreds of different kinds of cereal from around the world. Now that is a place I want to go. In 2007, a Doberman pincer named Khan actually saved a baby girl from a deadly king brown snake attack by grabbing the girl by the diaper and flinging her to safety and taking a venomous bite to the paw in her place. Kyoto, Japan was originally at the top of the atomic bomb target list during World War II, but was personally removed by US Secretary of War Henry L. Stimson because he had previously been to Kyoto on his honeymoon. In 1809, the Spanish town of Huescar declared war on Denmark, then forgot about it for 172 years. Not a single shot was fired and no one was killed, and a peace treaty was finally signed in 1981 when a historian found the official declaration and realized that they were actually supposed to be fighting. There's a popular variation of yo mama type jokes in Kenya that goes a little something like this. Your family is so stupid, you gave your chickens hot water so they can lay boiled eggs. Sure, why not? Google Chrome's dinosaur Wi-Fi error message is actually also a game. So next time you're angry at your internet for breaking, just press the spacebar and you will witness your T-Rex jump. Just don't let him land on the cactus or it'll be game over. And you still won't have internet. When General Motors unveiled the Camaro name in 1966, Automotive Press asked Chevrolet product managers, what is a Camaro? And they were told it's a small, vicious animal that eats Mustangs. Ooh, shade being thrown. In the US, being clean-shaven only became popular after troops returned home as heroes from World War I. This is because they had been required to shave so that gas masks could securely fit on their face. Steve Jobs refused to let his own kids have iPads and limited their use of technology to a minimum. LSD was first synthesized in 1938, but it wasn't until 5 years later that its creator, Albert Hofmann, accidentally consumed it, discovering its hallucinogenic properties. It was then packaged 9 years later for psychiatric uses. The world's first ligers were born in 2013. A white lion and a tiger had 4 male cubs, which are now the rarest big cats on Earth. After American physicist Richard Feynman was named the world's smartest man by Omni magazine, his mother was actually quoted as saying, "If that's the world's smartest man, God help us." It's always so nice when your mom supports you. In the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy, no two female characters ever speak to each other. In the late 1960s, Howard Hughes bought an entire casino named Silver Slipper just so that he could tear down their neon sign. This is because it was visible from Hughes' bedroom, and apparently it was keeping him up at night. Scientists in Florida plan on releasing genetically modified mosquitoes into the wild in order to reduce cases of dengue fever and other diseases. The males still mate with females, but the hatchlings die before adulthood due to the presence of new genes. Science! There is a 39-year-old man named Dan Jansen from Maryland, USA, who has lived exclusively on pizza for the last 26 years. I don't know the man, but that is a life that I want. Tom Monaghan, the founder of Domino's Pizza, met his wife on his first pizza delivery back in 1962. Violet Jessup was a ship nurse on the Britannic, the Olympic, and the Titanic. While on board the Olympic, it collided with a warship and nearly sank. While on the Titanic, it hit an iceberg and sank, and the Britannic hit an underwater mine and sank. Yet Violet survived all three. Mike Tyson first snorted cocaine when he was just 11 years old and was given alcohol when he was just an infant. Okay, yeah, no, that explains a lot. China invented fireworks, but Italy gave them their colors. Colors are created using metallic powders. Calcium makes orange, sodium makes yellow, and barium makes green. Also, cylindrical tubes create whistling sounds. The stethoscope was invented in France in 1816 by René Laennec because he felt uncomfortable placing his ear on a woman's bare chest in order to listen to her heart. Owen, a baby hippo from Kenya, was swept away from his mother during a tsunami. He then mistook a 130-year-old tortoise for another hippo, and the two actually became best friends. The graffiti artist David Cho, who painted Facebook's first office in 2005, was paid in shares and is now worth over $200 million. The sword-billed hummingbird is the only bird with a bill longer than its body. High school student Hayden Goffrey started working several jobs, saved his money for a year and a half, and eventually bought a flower for each of the 834 girls at his school simply because he wanted them to feel joy. Watching your favorite movie over and over is good for you. The repetition calms you because knowing the outcome of a story helps you to feel safe in an unpredictable world. It also helps comfort you by recapturing lost feelings, according to a study in 2012 by Christelle Antonia Russell and Sidney J. Levy. At one point during the 1985 Geneva Summit, Reagan and Gorbachev agreed to pause the Cold War in case of an alien invasion. A poisonous lagoon at the quarry in Buxton, England, was dyed black for safety. The previous beautiful azure blue watercolor was so inviting that the signs did not keep swimmers out. Oh, look at this beautiful water, and my face is melted off. The world's deepest, darkest, oldest, and quietest motel room is 70 meters underground at Grand Canyon Caverns in a 65-million-year-old cave. A company by the name of Verstergaard in Europe launched a life straw in 2006, which makes contaminated water safe to drink. Users simply just have to suck up the contaminated water through it as if they would any other regular straw. Without using batteries or chemicals, it removes 99.9% of parasites, 99.9999% of viruses, and provides one person with an entire year's worth of drinking water for only $20. In 2012, HealthPoint Biotherapeutics of Fort Worth, Texas, developed a portable spray-on skin that can heal severe wounds much faster. The spray-on skin is actually made up of skin cells and suspended in a mixture of different types of proteins. Andre the Giant died on the night of January 27, 1993, in a hotel room in Paris. Coincidentally, he was in Paris to attend his own father's funeral. The longest mathematical proof in history is 15,000 pages long, involved more than 100 mathematicians, and took over 30 years to complete. That is why I hate calculus. Some of the largest spiderwebs in the world are built by the Anelocemus eximus, a breed of social spider that works together in a community. Over 50,000 spiders can live on one web until they eventually outgrow it and have to form new colonies. Note to self, don't go to the country where those exist. Apples originated in Kazakhstan, and wild apples can taste like roses, strawberries, popcorn, anise, and many other flavors. In fact, 90% of modern apples can be traced back to 2 trees. Rotterdam in the Netherlands is getting a floating forest. They're taking 20 trees that have been removed for development and placing them in boats throughout the waterfront. This is a statue titled "Politicians Discussing Global Warming," located in Berlin. Yellow snow isn't the only snow you shouldn't eat. According to a new study published in the Journal of Environmental Science Processes and Impacts, all snow can be harmful because it attracts particles from car exhaust fumes like a magnet. Basically, when you eat snow, you're consuming a pollution popsicle. According to the US Coast Guard Air Station in Traverse City, Lake Michigan can actually become so clear after the winter ice melts that you're able to see shipwrecks 91 meters below the water. According to the Guinness World Records, as of 2015, the world record for long-distance archery is held by a Paralympic armless archer, Matt Saltzman. Your sense of smell and taste begin to improve dramatically within 48 hours of quitting smoking. This is a plantable pencil. The pencil actually has a seed in it, and when it becomes too short to use, you can plant it and watch it grow herbs and vegetables. Potatoes have almost all the nutrients that humans need to survive. To prove this, the executive director from the Washington State Potato Commission ate nothing but potatoes for 60 days and was just fine. Potatoes, mash them, boil them, stick them in a stew. Caramont Farms in Esmont, Virginia posted a message on its Facebook page earlier this year looking for volunteers to snuggle with its baby goats. Not surprisingly, the sign-up list filled up immediately. Cuddle me! After its tourism sector boomed, Kazakhstan's foreign minister thanked Sacha Baron Cohen back in 2012 for the release of Borat after the country saw a 10 times increase in issued visas. Wah-wah-wee-wah. Nice. In 2014, a woman named Nancy Cohen was moved into a nursing home. Her relocated cat, Cleo, showed up 2 weeks later even though she had never been there before. She started hanging out on benches until somebody noticed her, and now they live together at the facility. Researchers at Oregon State have patented a strain of seaweed that tastes like bacon when cooked and contains twice the nutritional value of kale. Earlier this year, photographer Hallgrimur Pyr Helgason captured stunning images of the aurora borealis over Iceland that shows the moment they formed the outline of a phoenix. The Taxi Fabric project in Mumbai, India lets upcoming designers reupholster and completely transform taxicab interiors. In the 1960s, in Nevada's Black Rock Desert, a power company accidentally created the fly geyser. They did this by drilling into a geothermic pocket that let loose a stream of oil, water, and calcium deposits. Today, it's a vibrant living sculpture that's always evolving due to the colorful algae in the water. There is a unique tree near Piedmont, Italy called the double tree of Casorzo. It's actually two trees in one, a cherry tree growing on top of a mulberry tree. According to Daniel J. Baez, a psychiatrist at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, about 2% of the population are considered the sleepless elite. This means that they are night owls and early birds simultaneously. That's definitely not me. I like to sleep in. The 60-acre Cool Patch Pumpkins corn maze in Dixon, California is so big that people literally routinely call 911 for help getting out. That despite the fact that they even have a map that details every twist and turn and how to get out. Some people, man. This is the invisible treehouse located in Sweden. The outside walls are mirrored to make the house blend in with the trees. Prostitution exists among some penguins and chimpanzees. It was first reported in 1998 by Fiona Hunter, a researcher at the University of Cambridge, and Lloyd Davis of the University of Otago. They were studying the mating patterns of the Adelie penguins when they noticed that they prostitute themselves for things like stones or food. President Roosevelt collapsed while being painted. He never regained consciousness before dying, and thus created this unfinished painting which captures his last waking moment. Zhao Yong from China was missing for 10 years and was presumed dead, but was then found living in an internet cafe. A runaway at the age of 14, she was good at the game Crossfire, so other gamers paid to watch her play it, and she slept in internet cafes for the rest of her life and public bathhouses until she was found at the age of 24. When Don Carcos fought in World War II, he was hit with shrapnel that blinded his right eye. 64 years later, while working in a barn, a horse headbutted him in the exact same spot, threw him against a wall, and restored his vision suddenly. Thank you, horsey. The FBI now tracks animal abuse like it tracks homicides and assault. Their logic is that they classify animal cruelty as a Group A felony because if you abuse animals, there's a good chance that you do the same to a person. According to a study of surgical residents participating in the Roser Top Gun laparoscopic skills and suturing program, Surgeons who play video games make 37% fewer errors and complete 27% faster. Video game skills are a strong indicator of surgical skills. Unless you're playing Surgeon Simulator, in which case, that guy's gonna die. The CIA once created a gun that could shoot darts that caused heart attacks. Upon penetration of the skin, the dart only left a tiny red dot. The poison itself worked rapidly and then denaturated quickly afterwards. This was all revealed in 1975 in a congressional testimony. Wu Hisa from China had an ex-girlfriend and current girlfriend jump off a bridge into a river to see who he would rescue. He rescued his current girlfriend. Oysters make pearls so that they can feel better. When a grain of sand or debris gets stuck in their bodies, they ease the pain and irritation by coating it with multiple layers of nacre. It's a mineral that lines the inside of their shells, and thus a pearl begins to form. Basically, pearls are like blisters, only much prettier. In 2015, an advertising watchdog group called Truth in Advertising, or TINA, reportedly found that over 100 Walmart products were labeled made in the USA that were actually made elsewhere. Just after her husband of 67 years died, a woman named Norma from Michigan was diagnosed with cancer. Instead of getting treatment, she told the doctor, "I'm 90 years old, I'm hitting the road," and took an indefinite road trip across the US with her retired son and his wife. The journey was documented on the Facebook page Driving Miss Norma. A golden retriever from Michigan named Wesley was outfitted with braces earlier this year when he couldn't close his mouth or chew well due to his crooked teeth. Oh my god, that's the cutest thing ever. Cute little dog with the teeth. Arf! A study done by Iris Blandon Gitlin of California State University in Fullerton showed that a lie will be more convincing if you have to pee while telling it. Because of a phenomenon called the inhibitory spillover effect, focusing on controlling your bladder also allows you to focus on hiding any signs you might have when fibbing. I have so much hair. It works. In the 19th century, Americans purposefully filled their parks with squirrels for entertainment purposes. Before that, they were rarely found outside of forests. According to tornado researcher Tom Grazoulis, about 75% of all tornadoes happen within the United States. Viginala, Italy is cut off from direct sunlight for 83 days in the winter due to the surrounding mountains. So they set up a giant computer-controlled mirror on the top of the mountainside to reflect the sun's rays onto the town. Hey, Bella! We actually have the ability to eat an entire bag of chips without really noticing because chips have a vanishing caloric density. What that means is that it tricks our tongue and brain into thinking that we haven't actually eaten anything. That explains a lot. Famed artist Bob Ross painted a grayscale landscape in 1984 after meeting a colorblind man who believed that he would never be able to paint to show him that he can. The eye color of owls typically indicates what time of day the owls prefer to be active and hunt. Their eyes can be yellow, orange, dark brown, or even black. To burn off 200 calories, you could chew gum for 18 hours, apply lip balm 1,500 times, or sing a song 23 times. Or, just go to the gym. Planes used to be a lot more comfortable. In the 1940s, the Boeing 377 Stratocruiser had reclined club chairs throughout the cabin. On intercontinental flights, every seat could adjust into a bed so that each passenger could sleep. Somewhere we went terribly wrong. Raccoons are actually very smart. They can open complex locks in under 10 tries and can still repeat the process if the locks are rearranged or turned upside down. They'll also remember solutions to problems for up to 3 years. If you feel strongly that someone is watching you, that's because they probably are. Your brain has a primal gaze detection system that determines whether someone is staring directly at you or not. Clinical studies done at Stanford University show that people who have auditory hallucinations, such as schizophrenia, have voices that are shaped by cultural influences. In Africa and India, most describe them as voices of family members or spirits, but most Americans say that they hear violent, torturous, and hateful yelling from strangers. There are actually 3D printers that can print your dinner. The Foodini food printer makes everything from pizza to burgers to chocolate using fresh ingredients. 3D printed bacon. A free kitchen operated by volunteers in India at the Golden Temple in the western Indian city of Amritsar serves 100,000 hot meals a day and has been doing so for over 300 years. The average claw machine is only programmed to give the claw full strength every 20 tries. Scam! Basma Hamid, a Canadian woman originally from Iraq, learned how to tattoo so that she could cover her burn scars that she received on her face as a child. The results were remarkable, and she now has a business helping other burn victims by tattooing discolored scars to match their own skin tone. There exists an American company known as Creative Home Engineering that specializes in making hidden rooms for your home. There's even one that requires a chessboard played in a certain combination in order to unlock the room. Oh Lord, I want to contact these people. The United Kingdom and Portugal hold the longest standing alliance in the world, which started in 1386. Born in the 1930s, identical twins Oscar Stohr and Jack Youth were separated shortly after birth. Oscar was raised in Germany and attended Hitler Youth Academy, while Jack practiced Judaism in Trinidad. They finally met at the age of 21, and they didn't get along at first, but eventually became close brothers later in their 50s. When a cat brings back a dead animal, it's actually acting out its natural role as a mother and showing its owners how to catch and eat prey, just like they would teach their young in the wild. Meow. I don't know what that was. Your blood actually appears green underwater at about 9 meters or so because there is no red light underwater, therefore there's no red light that can bounce off of your blood into our eyes. In 2012, following the death of Meow, a cat who weighed 18 kilograms, the Guinness Book of World Records stopped recording the heaviest pets in the world to discourage deliberate overeating. You can differentiate between East and West Berlin from space because the different types of street lamps used to give off different shades of light. Germain Rodale, a longevity expert and father of organic farming, announced at the age of 71 during an interview that he's decided to live to be 100. He also declared, "I've never felt better in my life." And minutes later, while filming, he died of a heart attack. There is a boiling lake located in Dominica that is so hot, the center's temperature has never been determined. The grasshopper mouse is carnivorous, immune to venom, eats scorpions, and howls like a wolf to claim its territory. The blue marble is the only whole Earth photo taken by human hands from December 7th, 1972 by the whole crew of the Apollo 17 space shuttle. Nobody since has been able to be far enough from Earth to take a similar photo. The Spanish Paralympic basketball team was forced to return their gold medals that they won in the 2000 Australian Paralympics after almost all players were found to be not disabled. Some non-venomous snakes, like the tiger keelback, will actually protect their babies by eating poisonous frogs while being pregnant. They then pass the poison onto their eggs, which makes their newborns poisonous when they're born. On December 31st, 1946, a man named Alphonse Rocco claimed to be a detective and gave a pedestrian a camera and asked her to take a picture of a suspect. Well, the detective turned out to be a gangster, and the suspect turned out to be his ex-wife, and the camera turned out to be a concealed shotgun firing via the shutter button. Yeah, I'm never taking a photo for anybody ever again. In Bridport in the UK, there is a cat named the Artful Dodger who regularly catches the bus by himself to travel 10 miles to the neighboring town. He waits at the bus stop so often that the driver brings tins of cat food and knows what stop to let the cat off at. Dr. Seuss's first book was rejected 27 times. He was almost ready to give up, but bumped into a friend on the street in New York City back in 1937 who'd just begun working in publishing. Seuss said that if he'd been walking on the other side of the street, he probably would have never been a children's author. Skiffism was a form of ancient punishment where the victim was tied and force-fed a rich diet of honey and milk and then left in the sun. He accumulated diarrhea while his accumulated excretion attracted flies and insects who would then eventually eat the man inside out. Moving on. At the center of every single raindrop is a mineral dust particle. It is physically impossible for raindrops to form from pure water alone. There is a small village in Holland known as Dementia Village, inhabited by those people with dementia. It's designed to be a normal environment with a secured perimeter so that patients can safely roam to the grocery store, restaurants, cafes, and gardens without feeling, locked down or confused. A Stanford study concluded that there is a high correlation between walking and creative thought output. Compared to sitting, those who walked demonstrated a 60% increase in creative thought output. Snapchat founder Evan Spielgil's net worth was $1.5 billion at the age of only 24, making him the world's youngest billionaire. He's now 25 and worth $2.1 billion. Kowloon walled city in China existed from 1810 to 1993. In its later years, it was controlled by triads with thousands of residents who were involved in drugs, gambling, and prostitution before the city was demolished. You know Flo from the Progressive Insurance commercials? Yeah, she makes $500,000 a year. A study conducted at Washington University found that rats not only enjoy being tickled, but high-frequency recordings showed that they actually make the same laughing sound during a good tickle session than when they play with other rats. Rajendra Singh, known as the Waterman of India, revived 5 rivers and brought water back to 1,000 villages in India using native water preservation techniques. The pyramids of Giza were more ancient to the ancient Romans than Rome is ancient to us. Göbekli Tepe, located in Turkey, is thought to be the world's oldest temple. Constructed 6,000 years before Stonehenge, it's estimated to have been built before the invention of the wheel, even the idea of farming, or the tools that could have constructed its own existence. Basically, it shouldn't have existed itself. At the time of this recording, Star Wars: The Force Awakens had the biggest opening weekend in movie history at a total of a whopping $247,966,675. When Apple began designating employee numbers, Steve Jobs was offended that Steve Wozniak received number 1 while he only got number 2. He believed that he should be second to no one, so he took number 0 instead. Most predators have eyes facing forward, while most prey have eyes on their sides of their head. Every single restaurant that has appeared on season 2 of Kitchen Nightmares has closed. Big surprise. In 2013, a man threatening to jump from the South Carolina Ravenel Bridge was convinced not to jump after being offered a pizza. Studies conducted at Indiana University Media School discovered that watching cat videos actually boosts viewers' energy and positive emotions and decreases negative feelings. Cats are just taking over this video. Bicultural people may change their personality when they switch languages. According to a study conducted by university professors across America, language unconsciously affects people's interpretation of events. Women speaking Spanish were seen as more independent and assertive than women speaking English in similar situations. Black panthers are not a real species. What they are jaguars and leopards who have melanism, which causes them to have black skin. It's actually the opposite effect of having albinism. Conservationists in South Africa are infusing a special red dye into the horns of live rhinos. The mixture renders the horn completely useless to poachers that are trying to sell it commercially, and also has a toxin for human consumption. A team of researchers at Michigan State University have created a transparent solar panel that can be used in buildings to potentially power the entire building. It can also be retrofitted to older glass buildings to harness power. President Andrew Jackson's pet parrot was kicked out of Jackson's funeral in 1945 for cursing.